Well, welcome to ECIS and thank you so much for joining us. We're here to learn more about mentoring and more about the PushFar platform that supports mentoring for ECIS members worldwide. And I'd just like to start, before I introduce the lovely Ed Johnson, I'm going to just introduce my dear colleague, Abby, who's just turned her camera off, but Abby is from there she is again, who is from ECIS events, and so she's hosting our call today. And then also Nancy on the other side, Nancy, who is a facilitator at ECIS, but she also is leading this initiative to develop our mentoring platform. Nancy's probably somebody that many of you are familiar with because Nancy's worked with ECIS for a long time. And then we're going to talk about the mentoring, and as a result I shall be introducing you to Ed Johnson. So, launched at our annual leadership conference in 2021, which was an online conference, our ECIS mentoring platform has enabled confidential conversations that help us to move forward personally and professionally. The lens through which we strive to do all that we do at ECIS is one of embracing diversity and valuing inclusivity and belonging. And our overarching theme then, or our overarching aim, is to provide equal access to opportunities for everyone. We believe the PushFar Mentoring platform is an important step towards achieving this goal. Our ECIS community belief is that little actions create big impacts. Our purpose here is to develop mentoring as a personal development tool that can open doors and expand opportunities for all. And it's been our experience that mentoring can be a transformational way of helping others. So a very warm welcome to Ed Johnston, who is the CEO and a co-founder of PushFar. PushFar runs an open mentoring platform where anyone can sign up for free and find a professional mentor and a volunteer to mentor others. Ed's purpose today is not about selling a product, but it's about enabling and empowering us to use a tool well to enhance the conversations we have as mentors and mentees. With his extensive experience and vision for this field, Ed is here to share with us the value of mentoring. And so I hand over to you, Ed, to take us through your webinar today.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Well, good afternoon, good morning to some of you. Brilliant to have the opportunity to connect with you all wherever you're joining us today. As Sarah mentioned, I'm going to be going through some mentoring training, an introduction to mentoring for you, whether you are already in existing mentoring relationships or you're looking at them for the first time. I'm going to talk to you about how you can really make the most of them and how you can really use the platform and get the most out of the platform as well. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go through this afternoon. If you do have questions, we'll have plenty of time for questions as we're going through this. Please feel free to either put them into the chat or if you'd like to, do come off mute at any time, and I will try and pause at various points to give you the opportunity to ask questions as well. So, as Sarah mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of PushFar. I actually come at mentoring from a personal perspective. I was looking for a mentor myself a few years ago, and that led me on a journey to setting up PushFar. What we're going to cover off today, we'll cover this off in about 45 minutes or so, and so we'll have time for questions as well. We're going to start with an introduction. What is mentoring? I've heard some weird and wonderful definitions of this in the past, so we're going to make sure we're all on the same page today, and we know what mentoring is, and we also know the differences between mentoring and coaching, because there's often a lot of overlap, and therefore a lot of confusion between the two. So I'm just going to highlight what those differences are. I'm then going to talk about the benefits of mentoring on both sides. I think when we look at mentoring, we often think about the benefits for the mentee, that's the person being mentored, but there are just as many benefits for the mentor as well. So I'm going to highlight those so you're aware of those as we're going through this process. I'm going to cover off then the role of the mentor and the mentee. So what you as a mentor and the mentee need to be doing as you're going through this, but also what you can expect from the other party. I'm also going to highlight some potential pitfalls of mentoring. Now, this is often mistakes that are made in mentoring with the best of intentions in the world, but it's important that we know what those potential pitfalls are so we can make sure we're avoiding those mistakes. I'm going to then wrap this up with a quick guide to successful meetings and all of the elements that go into a successful mentoring meeting. And then we'll have plenty of time to go through an overview of the platform itself. So, what is a mentor? Well, the one sentence definition that we use at PushFar is a mentor is someone who shares their knowledge, skills, and/or experience to help another to develop and grow. So the chances are we've all been a mentor and we've all been mentored throughout our career, whether we've officially or formally called it mentoring or been part of a formalized mentoring relationship. And what's fantastic about a program like this is that we are really dedicating an hour or two each month in those mentoring meetings, either for our career development growth as the mentee or as the mentor to help another individual to develop and grow. And it really can be at every level that this is valuable and beneficial. The other thing I mentioned at the start that I was going to do is cover off the key differences between mentoring and coaching. Now, when we look at mentoring and coaching, there are 4 key differences. The first one is that mentoring is what's referred to as directive. So mentoring is all about giving that individual direction and guidance and advice to reach goals and objectives that they have. So with mentoring, the mentor is going to be doing a lot of the talking, directing and guiding. Whereas coaching is what's often referred to as non-directive. So with career coaching, the coach will often ask questions and it will be more around self-reflection and self-fulfilled potential. So mentoring, if you want to look at it in another way, mentoring, the mentor does a lot of the talking. Coaching, the coach actually does far less talking. It's more around the individual they're coaching, figuring out the right answers themselves. Another key difference is that mentoring is often longer term. Not always, but often longer term. So you may well be in a mentoring relationship for 6 or 12 months, maybe even longer. And it's great that you're able to then build up that rapport with your mentor or mentee through that process. Whereas coaching is often shorter term. So with the coaching, you may well have a one-off coaching meeting or a series of 4 or 6 coaching sessions over a week or a month. The third key difference is that mentoring doesn't really have qualifications. And there's definitely the right and the wrong way to be a mentor, and we'll cover those off in today's session. But really what qualifies you to being a mentor is having knowledge, skills, and experience that someone else can benefit from. And we all develop those throughout our career. Whereas coaching does have qualifications. So you have coaching accreditations, ILM levels, and you have to build up certain numbers of coaching hours. And then the final key difference between the two, mentoring is usually voluntary. And one of the reasons is that the mentor stands to gain a lot from this as well, as we'll talk about in the benefits in the next couple of slides. And coaching is usually paid. Again, not always, which is why I put usually. So there we are. 4 key differences between mentoring and coaching to get us started. So I'm going to start now with benefits of mentoring, and quite deliberately, I am going to go through the benefits for the mentee first, because we often think about those benefits for someone being mentored and what the mentee stands to gain. And so the first frequently seen benefit for the mentee is it's a great way of providing you with advice and guidance to reach your objectives. Those goals and objectives you're going to be working towards with your mentor over a 6 or a 12-month period. Having that mentor who can provide you that, often from first-hand experience, is really, really valuable. The second key benefit for the mentee, quite closely linked to that, is its guidance on professional development. A lot of the time we'll talk about climbing the career ladder. We won't necessarily know the best way to go about doing that, though. Actually, a mentor is often in a really good position to help us navigate that career path and those career pathways available to us to help us with that progression. The third benefit for a mentee is that improved working world understanding. You may well be mentored by someone in a different organization, different part of an industry, different country or territory. All of this helps us to improve what's going on in the working world, within the industry, within different parts of the industry as well. And that can feed into additional opportunities for us in our development too. The penultimate benefit that I've put on here, I should have mentioned at the beginning, this is by no means an exhaustive list. So you may well find lots of other benefits coming out from this. But the penultimate one that I've listed is it's a great opportunity to learn new skills. You're going to learn new skills both directly from your mentor in your mentoring meetings, but also your mentor may well be able to advise you on the types of skills you should be working towards outside your mentoring meetings. And the final regularly seen benefit for the mentee, it's a great way of increasing your confidence. I know some people will go into a mentoring relationship as one of their primary or key objectives. They're looking at a mentor to help them increase their confidence. Other mentees will find that this just naturally and organically happens over time. So there we are, 5 reasons why you might want to find a mentor and be mentored. As I promised a couple of times so far, I'm going to cover up the benefits now for the mentor. And one of the first and most common reasons why you might want to mentor people is it's a great way of learning. We'll often think about the mentee learning, but as a mentor, you stand to learn a lot from your mentee as well. Your mentee is going to have different perspectives. There might be different generational understandings of certain situations and the industry. Your mentee might be using different technologies in their day-to-day work. As a mentor, you can learn a lot from your mentees as well. So be conscious of this going into any mentoring relationship as a mentor, and think about where you can learn from your mentee as well. The second benefit for you as a mentor is it's a great way of reinforcing existing knowledge. We often know a lot and have built up a huge understanding and insight in our industry or in our career, but may need to be reminded of that from time to time. And when you're in those mentoring discussions, you may well be advising your mentee on the sorts of things they should be doing, and then reminding yourself that you need to be doing more of that yourself. I know from firsthand experience, I mentor a couple of young entrepreneurs, and I'm constantly reminded of the things that I need to be doing more of myself when I'm leaving those mentoring meetings. The third benefit for the mentor, just the same as the mentee, it gives you that improved working world understanding what's going on in different territories and countries and organizations, and with that, the opportunities that can bring. It's also a really good way of improving leadership and interpersonal skills. I know some of you as mentors may already be leaders, and mentoring is a really good way of improving those existing leadership skills. For others of you, you may one day want to be a leader, and mentoring is a really good first step in achieving that. And the final benefit for the mentor, and a bit of a cliche, but absolutely valid nonetheless, is it really can make a difference to someone's career. It can be incredibly rewarding, satisfying, and empowering seeing someone develop and progress as a result of the knowledge and skills that you have shared with them. So if you can spare 1 to 2 hours a month to do that, then why wouldn't you? It's a brilliant thing to be able to do. I know we'll often speak to individuals who will credit a mentor from 10, 20 or 30 years ago as being crucial to their career success. So there we are, 5 key reasons why, and maybe you've come along to today's session as a mentee, 5 key reasons why you might want to consider being a mentor either now or in the future. I'm going to go into the detail of the role on both sides, and quite deliberately I'm going to start with the role of the mentee. And the reason for that is really, as a mentee, you should be driving forward and leading the mentoring relationship. So what I mean is, if you would like a meeting with your mentor, you should be proactively requesting one, and you should be making sure those meetings are in the diary. And there are 5 things that you need to consider as your role. And the first one might seem really obvious, but I'm going to go into this in a bit of detail, and that's starting your mentoring journey. There are some people that say, I'd really like to be mentored. You ask them why, and they're not too sure. Try and think about why you'd like to be mentored and what you're hoping to achieve from it before you even speak to a prospective mentor. Because if you've got a really clear idea in your mind of what you'd like to achieve from a mentoring relationship, it's going to make the mentoring conversation so much easier, and it's going to give the mentor the understanding of what they want to be or what they're able to help you with. So take 15 minutes or half an hour out of your day just to pause and think about the why behind mentoring. What is it you would like to get out of it? Once you've done that and you've found a mentoring relationship or form, it's then about having the introductory meeting. Now, the introductory meeting is sometimes referred to as the contracting meeting, and this is going to be crucial for forming the foundation of your mentoring relationship. And there are two things that you need to do within this. The first one, set the expectations on both sides. How long is the mentoring relationship going to last for? In what medium are you going to meet? How often are you going to meet? What happens if it's not quite right or you reach your goals ahead of time? Talking about this up front is going to save any potentially tricky or awkward conversations further down the line. And if you've already embarked on a mentoring relationship, but you haven't had this introductory meeting, it's not too late. Go back and have that meeting now. And the other thing that as a mentee, you need to be really making sure you're conveying in this is making it really clear what your goals and objectives are. What is it that you would like to get out of this? What is it that over the next 6 or 12 months you'd like support in achieving here? Once you've had that introductory meeting, it's then about scheduling regular mentoring meetings. Ideally, you should be looking to schedule 1 to 2 meetings a month. Anything less than 1 meeting every 6 weeks, and you're probably not going to build up rapport effectively with your mentor. Equally, anything more than 1 meeting every 2 weeks, and it's probably overkill. So 1 to 2 meetings a month is optimal, but talk to your mentor and work out what's best for both of you. These are very much guidance on the expectations there, but it may be that you and your mentor or mentee find that something slightly different works better for both of you, and that's okay as well. The fourth thing that as a mentee you should be really trying to do is setting an agenda for your meetings and SMART goals for your meetings as well. If you've got an agenda, and it doesn't have to be an extensive 5-paragraph agenda, it can be 4 or 5 bullet points. But if you have an agenda and a bit of an idea of what you want to discuss, and you've been able to share that with your mentor, you're both going to be in a really strong position going into that meeting to get the most out of it and discuss what you really want to. And the other thing that you should try and aim to do as a mentee is set SMART goals and try and set 1 to 2 goals in between each of your meetings that you can work towards. Now, for anyone who's not come across this, SMART is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So try and set 1 to 2 specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals in between each of your meetings. And the final thing that we always recommend that the mentee does, remain curious and don't be afraid to ask questions. Mentoring really is an amazing opportunity to learn from an individual who's got that experience, who's got those insights. So asking them questions like, well, what would you do if you were in my situation? Or what would you do to achieve this or that in 6 or 12 months? Those sorts of questions can bring out some really insightful conversations. There we are. 5 key things that as a mentee you need to be doing. And really, once you've had that introductory meeting and you've embarked on the mentoring relationship, it's only 3 things that you need to consider. But if you're doing these, you're setting yourself up for success. What I'm going to do in a moment is go through the role of the mentor. As a mentor, a few things that you need to be considering as you're going through a mentoring relationship. So the first thing in terms of the role of the mentor, be really clear and honest when contracting. It can be tempting sometimes as a mentor to say to your mentee, yes, I can help with all those things. But if your mentee is asking you about something you don't necessarily have first-hand experience with, just be honest with them. No one's expecting you as the mentor to have all the answers. Just be honest up front. Equally, if your mentee is saying, can we meet every week? And you feel you can only commit to 1 meeting every 4 weeks, and I know we're all busy, that's entirely understandable. Just be honest and say that up front. It'll save potentially awkward conversations further down the line as well. The second thing, and hopefully this one's obvious, but I'll go into a bit of detail about this. As a mentor, you should be willing to share knowledge, guide, and encourage. There are some people that they don't share it with anyone else, but actually what that does, it limits your ability to build on that existing knowledge. Because when you start to share it, when you start to have those conversations about it, you build upon that existing knowledge, and it frees you up to develop in your own career as well. So make sure you're consciously sharing that knowledge that you've built up, and you're guiding and you're encouraging your mentees through the goals that they're working towards. Please provide practical and concrete advice as a mentor. Essentially, don't guess. If you're not sure about something, then just say. Equally, if you've got a good idea but you haven't been in that firsthand situation, you haven't been in that situation firsthand yourself, then you can just caveat that. And you can say, if I were you, I'd probably do this, but I haven't been in that situation myself. Equally, if there's anyone else that you're able to signpost your mentee to who might have more practical or concrete advice on a certain topic area, then you can, of course, do that as well if you feel comfortable doing so. But don't guess, and don't use your mentee as an experiment to try something that you haven't tried yourself. The fourth thing, provide insights. What have you seen working well? What are those real-world experiences and those stories that you can share about this? Equally, what hasn't worked so well? What are those things that haven't quite gone according to plan that you can learn from as a result of that? And the other thing you're going to want to try and do is provide an opportunity to reflect. So as a mentor, you'll probably be sharing quite a lot of information with your mentee. So from time to time, just saying to them, well, actually, do you need a minute or two valuable? And just saying to them, look, let's just take a minute or two just to pause and reflect on what we've been sharing. The fifth thing that you should be aiming to do, role model company values and behaviors from the organization you're part of. I shouldn't really need to say too much more about this. It's just going to put you in the best possible light as a mentor. The sixth and penultimate thing that you need to be doing as a mentor is challenging and questioning openly and positively. Now, this one's really important. There are some people that think that to be a good mentor, you need to heap a load of praise on the mentee and continually say things like, well done, congratulations, fantastic. And whilst that's good to do from time to time, that in itself isn't really helping the mentee. What is going to help them is challenging and questioning in an open and positive manner. So saying to them things like, well, that's good, but have you considered doing X, Y, and Z? Or I know you've set this goal for next month. Do you think you might be able to achieve another couple of goals? Always thinking about how you can help, as it says, to challenge and question your mentee. Really importantly, that second point, I feel like the whole of this should be in bold, doing so in an open and positive manner. And the seventh and final thing in your role as a mentor, provide support and reassurance during change. Change happens the whole time. Change happens on an individual level. It happens on an organizational level. It happens on an industry level, and also on a global scale as well, as we've seen with the pandemic over the last couple of years. So just be aware of any change that might be going on for your mentee. Maybe they're moving into a new role. Maybe they've moved into a new organization. And where possible and where you feel able to, provide support and reassurance to them during that. So there we are, 7 key things that as the mentor you need to be doing as you're going through this process. I'm briefly going to pause and just leave that on the screen for a minute or two, just for you to sort of think about that. And if you've got any questions, feel free to come off mute or put them into the chat. And in a moment, I'll then go through some potential pitfalls and how you can avoid making those mistakes.
So do feel free to ask your questions if you have any at this stage. Otherwise, we'll have some time perhaps right at the end as well. Or pop them in the chat.
Absolutely. So I always take, and I'm not sure whether this is a good sign, I always take silence as a good sign when it comes to any questions. But what I'm going to do now is go through the potential pitfalls of mentoring. And I want to start this by saying that some of these mistakes are very easy to make. Some of these are made with the best of intentions in the world. And I'll hold my hands up and say I've made a couple of these mistakes myself in mentoring. But it's really important that we know what they are so we know how to avoid these and put ourselves forward as the best possible mentors we can be. And the first one is an example of one that is often made with the best of intentions, and that's problem solving. It's not your role to fix your mentee's problems for them. It can be really tempting to want to, because often as a mentor, you'll have that first hand or those challenges that your mentees are up against, but you've probably got enough on your plate and on your to-do list already. So your role as a mentor is actually to help your mentee to identify any potential problems, quantify those, encourage reflection on them, and ultimately to provide advice and guidance to your mentee so that they are well equipped to fix any problems they're facing with the advice and guidance you've shared, rather than you doing the work for them. The second one is performance evaluation. You should not evaluate your mentee's work or pass judgment on it. You're not your mentee's manager, you're their mentor, and those are different roles. If you do ever suspect there is a performance issue, the best thing you can do for your mentee is guide them back to their line manager to have a conversation with them. The third potential pitfall is cheerleading. And this goes back to what I mentioned in that previous slide. Making sure that you are challenging and questioning your mentee openly and positively as the default position. Because if you're heaping on a load of praise, it's potentially, there's the potential rather, that your mentee is going to come back to you for a bit of a pat on the back, a bit of an ego boost over time. And ultimately, you may say to your mentee, brilliant. They may then go back to their manager, and actually their manager say, well, that's not what I asked you to do. So you may not know the full detail. So absolutely acknowledge growth, but make sure you're trying to always be in a position of challenge and question in an open and positive manner. I'm sure no one's going to do these next couple, but personal investigation. I put money on the fact that 90% of people on this meeting are probably not trained psychologists. But even if you are, that is not what mentoring is all about. So try and resist the urge to kind of delve into, try and bring it always back to what the mentee's goals and objectives are. And then again, I'm sure no one's going to do this, but the private ego trip. Focus on your mentee, limit your stories to building rapport, because as wonderful as your career is, I'm sure, don't be the mentor that spends an hour talking about your career, which has nothing necessarily to do with the mentee's goals and objectives. Always try and focus on what the mentee's looking to get out of this and what the mentee's goals and objectives are, and bring it always back to those consciously. And then the final potential pitfall is making sure the mentoring relationship doesn't become mentor-led. So absolutely go the extra step when establishing the mentoring relationship. But afterwards, objectives, activities, meetings, agendas, they should all be led by the mentee. And if you feel like your mentee is not coming to you for meetings, you can say to them, I'm very happy to be your mentor, but I'd really like you to take ownership and leadership of this mentoring relationship. So there we are. 6 potential pitfalls of mentoring and how you can avoid those. I'm going to run through a quick guide to successful meetings now, and a lot of these things will have covered off already. So I'm really just going to highlight and recap on these before I go through the platform itself. So the first thing, mentoring meeting scheduling. It's really important to try and aim to have monthly mentoring meetings. And when you're scheduling them, try and be conscious about scheduling them at least 2 weeks in advance where possible. The reason for this is it's going to give you both the headspace to prepare for them. Sometimes people will put a mentoring meeting into their calendars a day or two in advance, or even an hour or two in advance. Actually, it doesn't give either of you the time 3 weeks in advance. I can start to think about them both consciously and even subconsciously in terms of what I'm going to be talking about within them. So if you're scheduling meetings in advance, it gives you both the time to prepare. The other thing that's really important is location and duration. You should be aiming to have private mentoring sessions that last between 45 to 60 minutes. So if you're having virtual mentoring meetings, which I know a lot of you are, then that's brilliant. That already gives you some level of privacy already. But just try and be conscious of who might be able to listen into either or both sides of the conversation. Make sure there's not too much distraction. that you can really focus on those meetings. Equally, if you are meeting in person, as tempting as it can be, a pub, a bar, or a noisy coffee shop are not ideal places for mentoring meetings. They're full of distractions as well. So just be aware of that, and be aware of making sure that you have got that confidentiality piece covered off. And then in terms of duration, 45 to 60 minutes is optimal. Anything less than 45 minutes, you're actually probably not going to be able to get into the discussions properly and give yourselves that space for exploration in those meetings. Equally, anything more than 60 minutes and you'll probably veer off course or drift away from the agenda, or you might both find you're absolutely exhausted. Mentoring meetings can be quite intense. You can be sharing quite a lot within them. So 45 to 60 minutes is what we'd aim for. The third thing, clear objectives. In advance of each session, mentees, you really need to try and aim to plan and agree objectives with your mentor. If you're doing that, I promise you, you're going to have a really effective mentoring meeting. If you're skipping this part, actually, you'll find that you won't have as much to discuss. You won't have a clear agenda or an idea of what you want to discuss, and you won't get the most out of it. So try and make sure you have got some objectives you're working towards. And the session agenda, I've got 4 points that you might want to learnings from the previous session. So what have you discussed over the last, or in your last meeting a month ago? What have you then been working towards as a mentee over the last month? Where have there been any challenges you've faced? Any things that have gone really well? Any things that maybe haven't gone so well? Discussing that for the first part of the meeting will help get you started and reflect on what you discussed previously and where you've been or where you've come since there. The second part is then exploring and reflecting on key areas of focus moving forward. What is it you would like to achieve in the next month? What are your goals and objectives over the next month or 2 months? Explore and reflect on any concerns you might have about those. Where are there areas that you're looking to work towards where you're anxious or unsure about how to achieve that? And how, as a mentor, might you be able to help your mentee with those key areas of focus, those SMART goals that you're setting? The third thing, review the ongoing value of the mentoring arrangement. I think sometimes people shy away from this, and that's understandable. But actually, make sure you're both benefiting from this. Make sure it's working for both parties still. So as a mentor, you can say to your mentee things like, is this still working for you? Are you still finding this is helpful? And as a mentee, you can ask your mentor things, talk about and review the ongoing value of that arrangement on both sides. Make sure you're both happy with how it's going, and make sure if you feel like as a mentee you've reached the goals and objectives you set out to achieve, then it's okay to wind down the mentoring relationship. Don't confuse a mentoring relationship with a personal relationship. It's not a breakup. It's actually far more effective to wind down a mentoring relationship, having had it be really productive, rather than know that you've got another meeting in a month's time and sort of dread trying to put together an agenda for things you're not really working towards. So make sure you don't skip past this and check in with one another each time and say, are you both happy with how it's going? And are you happy to continue it? And if you are happy to continue it, then the final thing that you should try and do is agree the actions. What are those SMART goals that as a mentee you're going to be working towards over the next month? And as a mentor and mentee together, if you can do so, try and confirm the next meeting in the current meeting. It'll just lock it in both of your diaries so you know you've got it to look forward to and to prepare for. The fourth thing that you need to make sure you're doing as a mentor and mentee in the meetings is having quality conversations. Make sure your meetings are open, transparent, and honest discussions, allowing space for exploration and reflection. What I mean by this is taking the time and just making sure people who understandably shy away from the idea think, gosh, we need to keep talking, we need to keep the momentum going. Actually, with mentoring conversations, you're well within your rights to say to your mentor, do you mind if I have a minute or two just to pause and think about what you're sharing? Equally, as a mentor, you might need a minute or two just to think about the right responses to a question your mentees ask. And that's okay too. It's far better to do that than to think while you're talking and formulate your ideas at the same point. So just take a minute or two, just some space for exploration and reflection every 20 minutes or so in a mentoring meeting. And the final thing that goes into running a successful meeting is making sure that you've got actions and reviews. So mentees, any agreed actions, any of those SMART goals that you've set, you need to be making sure you're completing those. And mentors, you should be tracking progress. If it's going the other way around, and mentees, you're coming out of those meetings without an agenda, or mentors, you're coming out of those meetings with a long to-do list, and something is going wrong. So make sure it's this way. I'm going to briefly pause again at this point, and in a moment I will go through the platform itself. But again, any other questions or anything anyone would like me to clarify or anything anyone's unsure about on this, do either feel free to come off mute or drop those messages into the chat. Super. So I'm going to go through the platform now, and the platform I'm going to go through is a dummy version of the platform for the purposes of all the profile pages and everything you're seeing being dummy profiles. So nothing you're going to see is confidential or anything else, but I will highlight confidentiality on the platform as well. So once you've registered on the platform and you've been approved, you're then going to see a page similar to this, with between 3 to 5 suggested or proposed matches for you. Now on the system, it will try and find the best available mentors or mentees based on your profile and the other profiles of those within the program. These will take into account capacity and availability. They'll take into account keyword relevance and checkboxes as well in terms of where you're looking for that support and where a mentor can offer that. Now, if any of those suggested matches aren't quite right, or you'd like to be a bit more proactive in searching for someone, you can go straight to the search icon in the top right-hand corner, and I'll go onto the search page a bit later on. But for the purposes of the demo and being optimistic, assuming I think Will at the top of the page looks like a good match for me, I can request Will to be my mentor. And at this point, I can set some initial expectations. So I can tell Will what I'm looking for. This will pull through what I've already entered in registration, but I can adapt it to this request. I can include an introductory message as well. And I can also say how long I'd like to be mentored for and how often I'd like to meet or speak. If you're not sure where to start, then we have highlighted 6 months, meeting monthly is a really good starting point. And you can always extend or end a mentoring relationship. You don't need to necessarily commit to that longer term. You can change that once the mentoring relationship started. When you then request an individual, they'll receive an email letting them know they've been requested. So if you signed up to the platform, do keep an eye out in your email inbox for emails from PushFar. Occasionally, as with automated messages from other systems, they may end up in a spam folder. So just keep an eye on that. That was more to do with organizational firewalls and things going on there. So just keep an eye out on that and make sure that emails from PushFar are coming into your inbox. But when I request Will, that takes me through to an example homepage, all of which I'll go through in a moment because I've created some existing mentoring relationships so you can see how they look. But there we go. On the left-hand side, I can see that request has now gone to Will, and Will can then log in and respond to that request. Now, Will has 3 options here. Will can accept that request. He can decline that request, giving a short reason as to why to let me know, or he can send me a direct message to have a conversation before committing to it. For mentors on the call, if you receive a request and you're not sure whether it's necessarily the right mentoring relationship or not, rather than declining a request straight away, the best thing to do is send the individual a message and have that conversation. We often find that some of the most surprising mentoring relationships that individuals didn't necessarily think were quite right actually end up being the ones where you learn the most. So try and be open-minded to that. If you are dead set on the fact that it's not the right mentoring relationship or you don't feel you've got the relevant experience, then it is far better to decline it than ignore it altogether. So please do decline it and give a short reason as to why to let the individual know, and make sure that you're taking action either way. It's just polite and courteous for anyone else. So once you're in active mentoring relationships, the orange box at the top is always going to advise or guide you through the most important next action. So keep an eye out for this. If it's time for you to schedule your first meeting, or you're overdue a meeting, or if it's time to provide feedback, this is going to prompt you to take that action. And again, this is aligned with occasional emails into your inbox about those reminders. So keep an eye out for those. Below that, I can then see any active mentoring relationships that I'm in. Now, in this demo account, I'm already set up as both a mentor and a mentee. So I'm mentoring two people. I've got my two mentees here, and I've got my mentor here. With any of my mentoring relationships, no other participants can see those. So those are private between you and your mentor or mentee. Equally, things like meeting notes, goals, and private messages are strictly between you and your mentor or mentee, so you can use them confidentially through the platform. Before I go into the details of this mentoring relationship, a couple of other things I want to highlight on the homepage. One of them is the goal tracking on the right-hand side. We've spoken a bit about goals and objectives today. As you're going through this process, do try and set goals. And you can do this by pressing the plus button in the bottom right-hand corner. You can give your goal a title, a deadline, and the visibility as well. So maybe there are some goals you're working towards on your own that are private to you. In other cases, you might want to share those with your mentor. We also on the homepage have a questions and conversations section. Now this acts a bit like a forum. You can create a thread or a conversation that any other mentors and mentees can contribute to. So don't put anything confidential here. This is more for you as a mentoring community to connect and share thoughts and ideas. And then below this, any events that are being listed by ECIS, you'll be able to see these on the homepage on the bottom here. So if we look at one of our mentoring relationships, we've got two options. We can schedule a meeting or view the details of that. And when we click on view details, this opens up our mentoring management panel. And within this, we can send one another a direct message. We can view each other's profile. Should we wish to, we can extend or end the mentoring relationship. If you are taking either action, please do have a conversation with your mentor or mentee first, just so there are no surprises with those requests. And then we can see a summary of activity. We can log notes and objectives. We can see any upcoming meetings and any notes or agenda for those. In the top right-hand corner of this box, we can also view past meetings, where within this, we can log any notes from previous meetings. And as well as that, we can schedule new meetings through the platform too. And in terms of meeting types, we do have built-in video calling on PushFar. However, I know that sometimes organization firewalls like to block video calling that isn't approved by providers such as Zoom or Teams. So if you're finding that you're not able to connect on PushFar's video calling, it's probably a localized network or firewall issue, in which case you can choose to schedule another meeting through this and just drop in a Zoom or a Teams link or any other link that you know is approved within your organization. Do try and schedule your meetings through the platform, even if you're not using PushFar's video calling for them. It's going to give you that centralized log of all of your meetings and really help you to stay on track and on structure with your mentoring relationships. And the final couple of pages just to highlight on the platform today, each of you will have your own profile page. And if you feel comfortable doing so, do add a profile picture. It's immediately going to make you more personable and approachable to others. Equally, when you're viewing other participants' profiles, you can see if someone is a mentor or a mentee, what they can help others with as a mentor and what they're looking for from others as a mentee. And you can also send them a direct message through their profile. Off the back of profile pages, and as I promised earlier on, we've got that search functionality. So you can search proactively for people if you're looking to. You can search by profile and mentoring keywords. So if you're looking for someone with really specific experience, you can use that keyword search to filter and find either mentors or mentees within the platform. And the final page to draw your attention to is the Resources Hub. Now within this, we've got a number of mentoring guides and resources. We've got a 24-part video series on the mentoring best practice as well. A lot of this we've covered off in the training today, but have a look through that. Equally, make sure your mentor or mentee has done the same, so you're both on the same page. And with every page on the platform, in the bottom right-hand corner, you do have the support link where you can access our support knowledge base, our frequently asked questions, and you can raise a support ticket at any time. And that is an overview of the platform. and its main functionality, and an introduction to mentoring. So I'll hand back now to Sarah and any questions that anyone might have.
Sarah, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ed. I heard, I've spoken to you before. We've met before. I heard this all this morning, and I'm still sitting here following it all on the platform and getting my head around it. The platform itself is just so well designed. It's really helpful. One thing that I would just mention to everybody here is that we have had some situations where instead of being able to get onto the video call through the platform, which there's a linking system there, sometimes people are blocked because of their firewall, and so that hasn't worked very well. And in those cases, they've needed to go in through a sort of a separate Zoom call or Teams call or whatever it might be. But it's really good then to come back to the platform so that we're putting our goals in there and we're keeping that documentation going. It's helpful for us as a mentor and mentee to have that information in the platform where we know where we can go to it. But it's also really helpful for us at ECIS to be able to see the data, to see the traffic, to see who's linking up with whom, and so that we don't have situations where people are signing up to be a mentee, for example, and then not making a match with somebody. So it's really helpful for us to have that. So if you can just remember that when you're when you're registering. And then the other thing that I would just say is that at this stage in the history of what we're doing here, and ECIS, as I said earlier, has been using this wonderful tool for just over a year now, in a time where, you know, when we started off using it at a time when a lot of people were in lockdown, and that was really helpful to colleagues to be able to make links with one another, but also now just seeing the traffic that's going through it, it is a really helpful tool. Unfortunately, at the moment, we're still having to say this is just for member schools of ECIS, and that's for data protection reasons. You can imagine that that's an important part of what we're doing as we're piloting this and continuing to grow it. So this was really helpful once again, and I can see chats coming in. So we've got, thank you so much, much appreciated from Mohammed, and then, you know, thank you for your efforts, great presentation, massive information, thank you, very helpful indeed, really helpful information, and enjoyed the presentation. Thanks for your great effort. So thank you for for that feedback, which is, you know, really comes across as being very positive. If you do have any questions, you're very welcome to pose those here, or to contact Ed at PushFar, to contact me. I've put my contact details, you can see, in the chat as well, where I've also, you know, given you the link straight to the mentoring site on our website. And then also, it's really important to us at ECIS that we don't just do the silver bullet trainings where you have a training and then you're expected to know how everything works, but that we continue the conversation with one another. I think this is really important from the professional development point of view. And this is a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that through mentoring, but it's also, I think, you know, really important that you know that there are events that you can join that will continue the transformational experience of professional learning. So take a look at the ECIS events page as well. I've put that in the chat as well, if that's helpful to you. So it's just, if you want to put your cameras on, if anybody wants to ask a question at this stage, you're terribly welcome to. And if not, you know that you can get in touch with us, and we'll gradually say our farewells. Ben, you've put your camera on. Lovely to see you.
I just wanted to say hi. I've used the PushFar for mentoring, and it's been wonderful. It's been a really great way to network and to develop high quality professional communication. So, you know, thank you very much for putting it together.
And thank you for what you're doing as a mentor and possibly as a mentee as well, Ben. It's really very, very much appreciated.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate it too. I mean, like I'm both a mentor and a mentee on there, and I've learned from both roles.
Yeah.
And it's been quite valuable. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. Anybody else have a comment that they want to make or a question that they want to ask? Good. Then I think we'll finish the recording at that point. And we'll say thank you very much to everybody. And then gradually